Pedro Acosta has thrown a lifeline into the MotoGP rider market that absolutely nobody saw coming, and it involves his current teammate, Brad Binder, a man who might be jobless in 2027. Binder, once the crown jewel of KTM's project, now faces the very real possibility of being pushed out of MotoGP entirely. No factory bike, no satellite seed, and time running out fast. I'm going to break down the exact words that sent the paddock buzzing, the deeper power struggle at KTM, and the one move that could still salvage his career. But there's a twist here that might change how you see the entire championship landscape, and it's something nobody's really asking. Because while everyone is focused on Binder's struggles, the bigger story is what Acosta's loyalty reveals about KTM's future and the 2027 rule changes. So, let's get into it. Picture this. It's a regular media scrum in the MotoGP paddock, and Pedro Acosta, the Spanish sensation who's about to become Marc Marquez's teammate at Ducati next year, is asked about Brad Binder's uncertain future. Most riders would give a diplomatic, cookie-cutter answer, but according to reports, Acosta looked the reporters dead in the eye and said, "I would definitely give Brad a MotoGP bike. There have been very few people who have put in as much effort as he has." And then he dropped the line that made everyone do a double take. "I'd give him a bike anywhere. I'd even give him the one I'm riding now." I don't know about you, but if my teammate offered up my bike like it was a spare pair of gloves, I'd be checking the fine print of his contract. All jokes aside, this was a massive statement of loyalty from a guy who is literally on his way out the door. And it comes at a time when Binder, a rider who was once the undisputed leader of KTM's MotoGP program, is fighting for his professional life. Let's rewind a bit. Brad Binder has been with KTM for years, winning the Moto3 world title with the brand back in 2016, then moving up to MotoGP and delivering KTM's first ever Premier Class win at Brno in 2020. He added a second victory at the Red Bull Ring in 2021, and for a long stretch, he was the guy carrying the orange flag almost single-handedly. But since the start of 2025, something just hasn't clicked. His results have fallen off a cliff, and the timing is brutal, because that's exactly when Acosta, the young prodigy, joined the factory team and immediately started outperforming him. It's the kind of narrative that writes itself, the new kid on the block outshining the established star. And KTM's management, in their infinite wisdom, decided to completely clean house for 2027. They signed Fabio Giannantonio and Alex Marquez, two riders who've been brilliant on Ducatis lately, but have absolutely zero history with the Austrian manufacturer. It's like they looked at their own development pipeline that produced Acosta, Binder, Miguel Oliveira, and others, and said, "Nah, let's just hire the competition." Now, I'm not saying those aren't talented riders. Alex Marquez finished second in the 2025 championship, and Giannantonio is leading Ducati's charge in 2026, just 16 points behind championship leader Jorge Martin as of the latest standings. But it feels like a strange pivot away from the loyalty that built KTM's MotoGP project. And that brings us to the awkward part. The satellite team, Tech 3, theoretically had a seat available that could have kept Binder in the family, but according to multiple reports, the frontrunner for that seat is Luca Marini. Yes, the same Luca Marini who's been riding a difficult Honda and hasn't exactly been setting a world on fire. If Marini gets that Tech 3 bike over Binder, a rider who knows every nut and bolt of the RC16 and has proven he can win on it, then we need to have a serious conversation about politics versus performance. I'll let you draw your own conclusions on that one. But here's where it gets personal. I've been following MotoGP for a long time, and I've seen plenty of riders get chewed up by the system. Binder's situation hits differently because he's not someone who coasted on talent. He's a grinder. He put in the work when KTM's bike was nowhere near the podium, and he stayed loyal when bigger teams came calling. Hearing Acosta, his teammate and supposed rival for the spotlight, defend him so passionately was honestly refreshing. It tells you that behind the scenes, the respect between these two is genuine. Acosta even acknowledged that Binder isn't getting the results he deserves, but insisted it's not for lack of effort. That kind of endorsement from a rider of Acosta's caliber carries weight, and it makes you wonder if other team bosses are paying attention, because with the 2027 regulations resetting the technical playing field, new aero rules, potentially different engine configurations, experience and development skill could become more valuable than just raw one-lap speed. Honestly, I'd argue Binder could be a stealth signing for any team looking to build a development program from scratch. The new bikes will likely have reduced aero, possibly a return to more mechanical grip, and that plays into the hands of a rider who can muscle a bike around like Binder has done for years on the KTM. It's a lot harder to outdevelop a bike than just to be fast on a perfect one. So, while some teams are chasing shiny new talent, a seasoned campaigner who's seen it all might be exactly what a project like Yamaha or Honda needs right now. Just a thought. Meanwhile, Binder himself was asked about Acosta's comments and his future. He remained tight-lipped, saying only that he likes the idea, but things are still in the air, and that his manager is running around doing his job. He also didn't rule out a move to World Superbike, which for a rider who has stood on the top step of a MotoGP podium feels like a gut punch. I mean, World Superbike is a fantastic championship, but when you've competed at the pinnacle, taking that step back is never part of the plan. For a rider like Binder, who's had a taste of the big show and delivered, it's a demotion no matter how you spin it. It would be like a headlining musician suddenly being asked to play the opening act because the main stage got booked up. Binder did add something interesting, though. When one door closes, another opens. That's the kind of optimistic cliché we hear all the time in sports, but in this case, I think there might actually be a door cracking open somewhere. The rider market for 2027 is still fluid. With Acosta leaving KTM, there could be a domino effect. Maybe a team like LCR or Gresini or even a wild-card new entry takes a chance on a proven race winner who's suddenly available. Stranger things have happened. Just a few years ago, nobody thought Aleix Espargaro would find a new home at Aprilia and become a title contender, so never say never. Now, Acosta also took time to back KTM's new factory lineup, which some might see as a classy move considering he's leaving. He said he's happy for the team and that the new 2027 era deserves new blood. And you know what? He's not wrong. Bringing in riders like Alex Marquez and Giannantonio could inject fresh energy into KTM's project, especially with a new rulebook that will shake up the established order. But it still leaves a bitter taste for fans who watched Binder bleed orange for half a decade. The big question I keep coming back to is this: what does loyalty get you in modern MotoGP? Because if a rider like Brad Binder can't find a seat, then the sport's promise of rewarding commitment starts to look pretty hollow. Pedro Acosta's words might have just been a kind gesture in a press conference, or they might be the spark that convinces a team principal to pick up the phone. I'm leaning towards the latter, simply because when a guy who's about to share a garage with Marc Marquez says you deserve a bike, people tend to listen. And that's why I'll be watching this space like a hawk over the next few weeks. One final wrinkle that hasn't been discussed enough: Acosta himself is in a unique position. He's leaving KTM because he landed a dream seat at Ducati, but he clearly feels a sense of responsibility towards the brand that raised him. By publicly fighting for Binder, he's not just helping a friend, he's subtly reminding the paddock that KTM's talent factory is still very much alive. It's a savvy narrative move, whether intentional or not. And the one thing I haven't mentioned yet is Acosta's comments might have actually been a coded message to his future team, Ducati. Think about it. He's heading there, and Ducati has satellite seats to fill. Could Binder end up on a year-old Desmos Equipe? Stranger things have happened. I'll be digging into that angle. So, here's where we stand. Brad Binder, a two-time MotoGP winner and one of the hardest workers in the paddock, is on the verge of being squeezed out. His own teammate is offering up his bike in a show of support that's almost unheard of. The clock is ticking, and the next few weeks could define the rest of Brad's career. I'll be right here to break down every development as it happens. But there's one more twist that hasn't been discussed enough. That mystery Tech 3 seat, there's chatter, very quiet chatter, that the mystery veteran KTM might be considering is someone with a MotoGP title, or perhaps a rider currently stuck in a bad situation who wants out. I'm not going to name names because it's pure speculation, but it's the kind of puzzle piece that could completely shift the 2027 grid. So keep your ears to the ground. For now, I'm just glad that in a sport full of PR-trained answers, we got a moment of raw honesty from Pedro Acosta. It reminds us that even in the high-stakes world of prototype racing, some bonds run deeper than contracts. And if you think this is the end of the story, trust me, we're just getting started.